ध्यायेत रम्यां शारदा देवीं श्रीरामकृष्णाभिरात्मकां धन्यो भवेज्जगति तले पुण्यवांश्च असंशयम्। रामकृष्णः परब्रह्म नित्यः पूर्णः सनातनः इति ज्ञानं समाश्रित्य मुक्तज्ञानं लभेत ध्रुवम्। श्रीरामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण नमो नमः। अहर्निशं स्मरेत् यस्तु रामकृष्णम् अभीष्टदायकम् आधिव्याधिविमुक्तः सन् सदा सुखं कालं नयेत्। सर्वदेव देवीमयः श्रीरामकृष्णः स्वरूपतः जयलाभो भवेत् तस्य यस्येति रसनोपरि। श्रीरामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण नमो नमः। परात् परं श्रीरामकृष्णं जपित सदा हृत्कन्दरे तस्मात् तस्य योगसिद्धिर्ब्रह्म सिद्धिर्भवेत् ध्रुवम्। रामकृष्णः स्वयं गुरुः स्वयमिष्टश्च कृपावान् अक्रोधेनाहिंसया च तत्कृपा लभते निश्चितम्। श्रीरामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण नमो नमः। पूर्णब्रह्म रामकृष्णः यस्य हृदि सदा तिष्ठति भोक्त्या मुक्त्या तस्य चैव चित्तशुद्धिना किं भवेत्। अपत्यवत् पुंजातिषु स्त्रीजातिषु च मातृवत् भावकोत्तरति सद्यः शमनसङ्कटार्णवात्। श्रीरामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण नमो नमः। श्रीरामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण नमो नमः। श्रीरामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण नमो नमः। श्रीरामकृष्ण 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 नमो नमः। ध्यायेत रम्यां शारदा देवीं श्रीरामकृष्णाभिरात्मकां धन्यो भवेज्जगति तले पुण्यवांश्च असंशयम् रामकृष्णः परब्रह्म नित्यः पूर्णः सनातनः इति ज्ञानं समाश्रित्य मुक्तज्ञानं लभेत ध्रुवम् श्रीराम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण नमो नमः अहर्निशं स्मरेत् यस्तु रामकृष्णम् अभीष्टदायकम् आधिव्याधिविमुक्तः सन् सदा सुखं कालं नयेत् सर्वदेव देवीमयः श्रीरामकृष्णः स्वरूपतः जयलाभो भवेत् तस्य यस्येति रसनोपरि श्रीराम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण नमो नमः परात् परं श्रीराम कृष्णं जपित सदा हृत्कन्दरे तस्मात् तस्य योग सिद्धिर्ब्रह्म सिद्धिर्भवेत् ध्रुवम् रामकृष्णः स्वयं गुरुः स्वयमिष्टश्च कृपावान् अक्रोधेनाहिंसया च तत्कृपा लभते निश्चितम् श्रीराम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण नमो नमः पूर्ण ब्रह्म राम कृष्णः यस्य हृदि सदा तिष्ठति भोक्त्या मुक्त्या तस्य चैव चित्तशुद्धिना किं भवेत् अपत्यवत् पुंजातिषु स्त्रीजातिषु च मातृवत् भावकोत्तरति सद्यः शमनसङ्कटार्णवात् श्रीराम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण नमो नमः श्रीराम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण नमो नमः श्रीराम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण राम कृष्ण नमो नमः श्रीराम कृष्ण श्रीराम कृष्ण श्रीराम कृष्ण नमो नमः ध्यायेत् रम्यां शारदा देवीं श्रीरामकृष्णाभिरात्मकाम् धन्यो भवेत् जगति तले पुण्यवांश्च असंशयम् रामकृष्णः परब्रह्म नित्यः पूर्णः सनातनः इति ज्ञानं समा
Pranams, pranams. Sarvapriyananda Maharaj के लिए pranams. I'll be singing Sri Jaichamarajendra Vadiyar Maharaj Kriti in Nada Nama Kriya after the shloka. Om Pranavarthaya Shuddhajnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantāya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Namah Pranavarthaya Shuddhajnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantāya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shiva 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 Bho Mahadeva Shambho. Shiva 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 Bho Mahadeva Shambho. Shiva Ramana Mama Paradham Kshamatva. Shiva 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 Mo Mahadeva Shambho. Shiva Ramana Mama Paradham Kshamatva. Shiva 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 Bho Mahadeva Shambho. Sarva Sarvanandakara Akhilanda Prabho. Sarva Sarvanandakara Akhilanda Prabho. Bhavasadara Tarata Akshayadinda Vibho. Bhavasadara Tarata Akshayadinda Vibho. Shiva 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 Bho Mahadeva Shambho. Namaste Stano Pralayakala Jagadvakshaka. Namaste Stano Pralayakala Jagadvakshaka. Namachakamaka Prakatita Rudra Sutra Toshaka. Mama Chakamaka Prakatita Rudra Sutra Toshaka. Kamari Kamari Tripurare Kumbhodbhava Nuti Patra. Kamari Tripurare Kumbhodbhava Nuti Patra. Kameshwari Vallabha Kubera Mitra. Kameshwari Vallabha Kubera Mitra. कपाली कालभैरवी त्रिविख्यात श्रीविद्या विनुतनादनाम क्रिया तोषित कपाली कालभैरवी त्रिविख्यात श्रीविद्या विनुतनादनाम क्रिया भूषित शिव 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 भो महादेव शम्भो शिवारमण ममापराधं क्षमत्व शिव 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 भो महादेव शम्भो।
শ্রী স্বামী সর্বপ্রিয়ানন্দ জি মহারাজকে আমার সশ্রদ্ধ প্রণাম জানাচ্ছি। I'm singing a Tagore song taken from the prayer section of his songbook Gita Vitan. Message of this song is very universal. There is abundance of joy, jubilance, and happiness in this world. But still not everyone's been able to avail it. Still there are many miserable souls around. So the message is in this song, message to them is, broaden the horizon of your heart, leave behind your sorrow, the pettiness, and take the shelter of love, spread love, and love will set you free and unite you with divinity. আনন্দধারা বহিছে ভুবনে, আনন্দধারা বহিছে ভুবনে, দিন রজনী কত অমৃত রস উথলি যায়, অনন্ত গগনে আনন্দধারা বহিছে ভুবনে, পান করে রবি শশী অঞ্জলি ভরিয়া, সদা দীপ্ত রহে অক্ষয় জ্যোতি, পান করে রবি শশী অঞ্জলি ভরিয়া, সদা দীপ্ত রহে অক্ষয় জ্যোতি, নিত্য পূর্ণ ধারা জীবনে কিরণে আনন্দধারা বহিছে ভুবনে, আনন্দধারা বহিছে ভুবনে। বসিয়া আছো কেন আপন মনে, স্বার্থ নিমগ্ন কি কারণে, বসিয়া আছো কেন আপন মনে, স্বার্থ নিমগ্ন কি কারণে, চারিদিকে দেখো চাহি হৃদয় প্রসারী, ক্ষুদ্র দুঃখ সব তুচ্ছ মানি, চারিদিকে দেখো চাহি হৃদয় প্রসারী, ক্ষুদ্র দুঃখ সব তুছো মানে প্রেম ভরিয়ালাহ শূন্য জীবনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে দিন রজনী কত অমৃত রস উথলি যায় অনন্ত গগনে আনন্দ ধারা বহিছে ভুবনে।
Pranam Maharaj. We are fortunate to have Maharaj among us after a little bit of 5.5 months again. So we'll start our program with Ranjit Das, President of VSNJ, introducing Maharaj. Ranjit Das, please introduce Maharaj.
Thanks, Showman. And welcome to all of you to this Vedanta Society of New Jersey presentation of Swami Sarvapriyananda. Thanks for joining and thanks for all your support. Very special thanks to Showman, Paramita, and the team for organizing these events throughout the last year. These programs has helped us to keep in good spirits as we pass through this difficult time with the global pandemic. This evening, we will have another opportunity to hear Swami Sarvapriyananda. Most of you know him well. He is the minister and spiritual leader of the Vedanta Society of New York. When he spoke to us last year, he was doing a fellowship at the Harvard University School of Divinity. He is back to New York now. It's always exciting to hear Swami Sarvapriyananda and his deeply absorbing and spiritually inspiring and motivating lectures. I'm sure you all remember his last speech, 4 Ways to Peace. There was a good lesson for all of us. The topic of his presentation this evening is Vedanta, the foundation of Upanishad, the foundation of Vedanta. So let us all welcome Swami Sarvapriyananda again among ourselves. Pranam Maharaj, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for your time of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the organizers. Thank you to you, to Paramita Di, to Showman, right?
Showman.
Showman, yes.
Yeah, Maharaj.
And to
So a tech person.
and a lot of known faces here. Good to see you all. Wonderful songs. Thanks to those who presented the devotional songs. So let me start with a chant. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. It's good to be back here with the Vedanta Society in New Jersey, even though it's online because of the pandemic. But, the subject has special relevance to the Vedanta Society. It's not just the Vedanta Society of New Jersey, it's our Vedanta Society too, Vedanta Society of New York. Vedanta, if you ask for a definition, the definition of Vedanta is Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta is the source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads. So Vedanta is equal to Upanishads. See, this topic today is about Upanishads, and we are all in the Vedanta Society. What is Vedanta? The direct answer is Vedanta is Upanishads. That is the definition that we had to memorize as brahmacharis when we started learning the fundamental texts, the introductory texts of Vedanta. That is, we started with Vedanta Sara. And there the definition of Vedanta is Upanishads. So we really need to know what Upanishads are. We need to immerse ourselves in Upanishadic thought. In fact, the Upanishads are the foundational texts of Hinduism. Of all the systems of Hinduism that we find, all the tremendous variety of Hinduism that we find, in some way or the other, directly or indirectly, they are traceable back to the Upanishads. So what are the Upanishads? They are texts. Upanishads are texts. And these are found in the Vedas. The Vedas are the root texts, the foundational texts of Hindus, or our fundamental scriptures are the Vedas. In the Vedas, you can roughly make a distinction between two portions, the so-called Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, the ritualistic portion and the philosophical portion. The ritualistic portion deals with various kinds of rituals, especially the Vedic fire sacrifices, yajna, which were very popular. That was the form of Hinduism in Vedic times. Nowadays, we have mostly replaced them with puja. See, what we do in temples these days is the main ritual of the Hindus is called puja. You do it in temples, you do it at home. And the main rituals of the Hindus about in the Vedic times or ancient times was the yajna, the Vedic fire sacrifice. So it has evolved over time. But in Hinduism, nothing dies, nothing is totally replaced. So any major puja, you'll always find a Vedic fire sacrifice. A yajna is preserved in that way. And in fact, one of the interpretations in a puja, when you have a lamp, you light a lamp, the first thing that you do when you start a puja is light a lamp. So that is a symbol of the Vedic fire. In the fire sacrifice, the altar used to light the Vedic fire. So the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, which is the bulk of the Vedas, they tell you about the different kinds of Vedic fire sacrifices, how to perform them, what are the materials to be used, what are the mantras to be chanted, what is the purpose. The purpose was always fulfillment of desires, this worldly and otherworldly. See, in Sanatana Dharma, excuse me, the purpose of life was called Purushartha, the goals of life. It's not normative, not that you had to do that, it's just a descriptive thing that this is what people pursue in life. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Kama, pursuit of pleasure. Artha, pursuit of wealth and success and power and status in life. And Dharma it can be defined broadly and narrowly. Broadly, it is, a moral life, a life of a religious, devout life. Basically, anybody who follows a Vedic lifestyle is a dharmic lifestyle. More specifically, dharma meant the performance of Vedic rituals. There's one definition of dharma which narrows it to performance of Vedic rituals. Now, because of this, these are the goals, and the idea was religion can help you to get these goals. Even these very worldly goals like pleasure and success and power, all of this is by the force of our karma, our accumulated good karma that gives rise to these results. So if you have a lot of good karma in store, then you would, your desires for success and well-being, good family life and success in profession, health, and after death, a post-mortem good life in heaven, in Swarga, all of this would be guaranteed by your past karma, good karma, if we have a lot of good karma. And this good karma, you can build up your balance. So this was the understanding. This is the way people thought about religion. You can build up your balance of good karma by doing Vedic rituals. What kind of rituals? Those are mentioned in Karma Kanda. So there was this whole philosophy behind it, which is called Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is the philosophy or is the interpretation of the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. The mass of Vedic literature was organized by Veda Vyasa into 4 major texts or 4 sets of texts. We all know Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. And in all of these, you find all these descriptions of various rituals. And these rituals will give you what you want in this life and what you want after death. A heavenly, a posthumous, enjoyable life in heaven. Now, for those who want more, at one time we realized that this is not enough. You cannot get lasting satisfaction. You cannot completely overcome suffering by simply chasing pleasure and power and success and going to heaven after death. What will happen is, again, after the karma has been exhausted, you will come back. Bhagavad Gita says, Kshine punye matyalokam vishanti. Once punya, our good karma is exhausted, once again we come back to this world and we take the birth, human birth, and you earn more good karma to have a pleasant life in the next life and go to heaven after death again. So you can see it becomes pretty tedious very soon. And a mature soul would want something more than this. We want to know what is the ultimate reality. We want to know what is there any way of attaining lasting peace? Is there any way of attaining transcendence of sorrow, going beyond sorrow? In this way, you cannot. By performing rituals and going from lifetime to lifetime, you may get a nice life at the most, but there is no permanent solution to the fundamental questions of life. So then you are invited to come to the Jnana Kanda, the later portions of the Vedas, which includes the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, you find answers to these fundamental questions. What is the ultimate reality of the universe? What is the purpose of life? Who are we? How do we attain lasting, deep, lasting, profound fulfillment? And how do we overcome sorrow? And this was defined as moksha, not dharmartha kama, but moksha. Moksha means freedom. Freedom from sorrow, attainment of fulfillment, which was understood in the Indian context. We all, we accept many lives, the cycle of death. So freedom from sorrow would be freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Janma mrityu chakra. Moksha means freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from suffering. Attainment of fulfillment, which is equal to freedom from the cycle of birth and death. See, in this country, in the United States, for example, in the West, people are not acquainted with the idea of many births, that we are born again and again. They find it weird. They find it difficult to understand. How can there be many births? Because the Judeo-Christian idea was you're born once, and then you die, and that's it. And so the people find it difficult to understand. How can there be many births? Though I personally found it difficult to understand why people find it difficult to understand. You see, I had discussions with scholars and students sometimes. I still have not understood what is the great difficulty in understanding this concept of many births. Because if you are a committed materialist, if you are a, say, physicalist, materialist, reductionist, who does not accept any kind of existence beyond the body, there is no existence after the death of the body. If you say that there was no existence before the birth of the body, like the ancient Indian Charvakas, then I can see why you would be unwilling to accept that there will be many lives. But the people in this country, in the West, they are not coming at it from that angle. The people are talking about, they are either committed Christians or Jews or Muslims. Now, anybody belonging to any religion, one thing is common. You accept some kind of post-mortem existence. You accept that there is some existence after death. Otherwise, there can be no religion. Even if you're a Christian, you may not accept many lives, but you do accept that after the death of the body, the soul is still there. After all, who will go to heaven or who will go to hell if there is no soul after death? So Jews accept an existence after death. Christians accept, Muslims accept, Buddhists accept, Jains accept, all Indian religions accept this. So I've never been able to quite understand what is the difficulty in accepting that there can be many lives. If you accept that there is a life after death, then by extension, there can be many lives. Why is it so peculiar? Anyway, and nobody has been able to give a satisfying answer. Why do they find it so difficult to understand? But moksha is understood as freedom from this cycle of birth and death. And that is the purpose of the Upanishads. That is the purpose of Jnana Kanda. This higher religion, you can call it spirituality. The purpose of spirituality is moksha. And in all Indian religions, the Jains call it Kaivalya or the Kevalin. The Buddhists call it Nirvana. Or Hinduism, we call it moksha or mukti. But basically, that's the idea. It's the freedom from the cycle of birth and death. It's freedom from suffering. So this ultimate solution to the problem of life, to the fundamental questions of life, that is the subject of the Upanishads. So one must be very clear. What are the Upanishads about? You see, is it for a healthy body? Is it for going to heaven? Is it for getting a lot of money? No. That is not the subject of the Upanishads. The subject matter of the Upanishads is moksha. All those other things, all the good things in life you want in this life and the next life, that is the subject matter of Karma Kanda, the earlier portion of the Vedas. And today, it is the subject matter of conventional religion. When you go to a temple and give puja there, most people are not doing puja in the temple for moksha. Most people are doing either somebody wants a disease to be cured, somebody wants a green card, or somebody wants the children to be married, or in general, let life go well, let things be well, let me be well, let the family be well, let the community and the world be well. So that is a worldly goal. And that is the goal of most conventional religion. And it's not just in Hinduism. If you go to the churches, most it is, please cure my disease, please get me a job, please defeat our enemies, whatever it is. Those are all worldly goals. So it is every religion. There is a mass aspect to it. There is a conventional aspect to it, which is, in Hinduism, we call it dharmartha kama. But moksha is the higher religion, spirituality. And that's there in every religion again. In different names are there for that. So Upanishads deals with moksha. So I'm just saying, what is the subject matter of Upanishads? The prayer with which I started, again, Upanishadic prayer. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityur ma amritam gamaya. That is the purpose of the Upanishads. It's a journey from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality. From death to immortality means from the cycle of birth and death. From the cycle of birth and death to immortality. The cycle of birth and death is not immortality, because you're dying again and again and again. So freedom from repeated births and repeated deaths, that is immortality. Anyway, so this is the purpose of Upanishads. This is the goal of the Upanishads. The word Upanishad itself, it meant at some point, it was defined as Rahasya Vidya, secret knowledge, the knowledge, or Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of the ultimate reality, which you find in these texts called the Upanishads. Shankaracharya, in his commentary to Kathopanishad, he gives a detailed analysis of the word Upanishad. What does it mean? Upa plus ni plus sat. Upa plus ni plus sat. Upa means going near, approaching the teacher or approaching this knowledge itself. Ni means nishchayena, with clarity. There should be no doubt. It should not be, in Bengali we say bhasha. That means kind of unclear knowledge. No, it should be realization. It should be absolute living reality. It should become like that. That's the goal. Ni is nishchayena. Technically, in Advaita Vedanta language, it should be free of asambhavana and viparita bhavana. Those are technical terms. Then sat. Upa ni sat. Sader dhatu visharana avasadana gati artha. Shankaracharya says. There are three meanings of this. One is visharana, destruction. What does it destroy? Upanishads is that knowledge which destroys ignorance. Ignorance about that ultimate reality, which the Upanishads are teaching. So ignorance is destroyed. It's a journey from darkness to light, ignorance to knowledge. Another meaning is visharana gati, that which takes you to Brahman, the ultimate reality. Upanishads talk about an ultimate reality. So takes you to Brahman means, gati here means avagati, that means realization, knowledge. It does not physically take you anywhere. It gives you knowledge of that ultimate reality. And then there is avasadana. Avasadana means weakening or loosening. It loosens the bonds of samsara, the suffering. The suffering that we have in samsara, it is loosened, it is reduced. Just now I was saying that last time I talked about 4 ways to attain peace. And in the time of pandemic, the spiritual talks which you have been having in Vedanta Society and in other places also online you hear, notice it helps. It gives some peace of mind, it gives some strength. Prayer helps, meditation helps, puja helps, reading the lives of enlightened people, the great saints, it helps. Reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, it helps. So what is this help? It is the loosening of the bonds of samsara, the bonds of suffering which are so tight. That is, for the time being, it is loosened. So there's a technical meaning, but this is in general I'm talking about it. Upanishads means this. In one word, Upanishad means Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of the highest reality. But this knowledge, when you're talking about books, is Upanishad a book or knowledge? So in the secondary sense, Upanishad means books. The various texts which we call Upanishad is a secondary sense. The real meaning of Upanishad is knowledge. So you can't say I'm reading a knowledge, I've borrowed knowledge. No, I've borrowed a book. I'm reading a text. That text is also called Upanishad secondarily. So what are these texts? These texts are found in the Vedas. Sometimes at the end of the Vedic Samhitas. So for example, Ishopanishad is the 40th chapter of the Vedic Samhita. 39 chapters are Karma Kanda, 40th chapter is Jnana Kanda, Ishopanishad. Because it is found in the end, there are 40 chapters and the 40th chapter is Ishopanishad. That's why it is the end of the Veda. So Vedanta, Anta is end. But then always Upanishads are not found in the end. Sometimes they are scattered in the middle, some in different portions of the Vedic Samhitas. So therefore, when you say Vedanta, it does not always mean literally the end of the Veda. Vedanta in what sense? Anta in the sense of Siddhanta. Siddhanta. So Siddhanta means the final conclusion, the highest teachings. So here are the holy books of the Hindus. What is the final teaching? The greatest teaching of these books, those teachings are Upanishads. So in that sense, Upanishads are Vedanta. The highest spiritual philosophical teachings of the Vedas are Upanishads. A philosopher, Arindam Chakravarti, he gave a nice interpretation. Anta, Vedanta, Anta, the word Anta, it not only means end, it not only means Siddhanta, the final teachings, but it also means edge. Edge. The razor's edge, the edge of a knife, like the edge of a razor. So, Kshurasya dhara. Kshura means razor. Dhara means the sharp edge. So the edge, the cutting edge of knowledge. We say cutting edge technology, cutting edge of knowledge. So Vedanta is not just ancient, outdated, obsolete knowledge. It is the cutting edge of knowledge. That was the very interesting interpretation given by Professor Arindam Chakravarti. He says it is the cutting edge of knowledge. And indeed, Somerset Maugham, the British novelist, one of his most famous books, maybe the most famous book, is The Razor's Edge. At one time, it was very popular here in the West. Many people went off to India backpacking to search for spiritual knowledge after reading the book called The Razor's Edge. And the term razor's edge, Somerset Maugham took from the Kathopanishad. Shurasya dhara, Nishita duratyayade. This path is as difficult, as subtle as the walking on the edge of a razor. So yes, it's a good interpretation. Cutting edge of knowledge. Vedanta. Anta means the cutting edge. New interpretation. All right, whatever it is. So these texts are spiritual knowledge. Fine. Where do we go from here? Which are these texts? How many are there? What do they contain? How are they related to Hinduism today? How is it the basis of Vedanta? So these are the questions we'll quickly look at. So which are the texts? Upanishads are many in number. They are scattered through the 4 Vedas, they're many in number. But 10 of them are important. Why are they important? Because about 1200, 1300 years ago, Adi Shankaracharya, he selected these 10 and arguably one more, 11, Shvetashvatara, but 10 that is traditional, 10 are accepted more or less by all scholars. 10 Upanishads he selected and wrote commentaries, bhashya, commentaries obviously in Sanskrit, so commentaries on these 10 Upanishads. So nowadays we call them major Upanishads. There's really no major and minor, but it's something because of Shankaracharya's selection. We are now, in English, we are calling them major Upanishads. But all Upanishads are Upanishads. But these major Upanishads are the ones which Shankaracharya selected for the bhashya. So if you are a monk or a traditional scholar of Vedanta, so what is your syllabus? Vedanta is Upanishad. So which are the Upanishads you will study? Your syllabus. The syllabus is in the form of a shloka, which gives you the Upanishads to be studied. Isha kena katha prashna mundamandukya titirihi aitareyam cha chandogyam brihadaranyakam tatha. Ishopanishad, Kenopanishad, Kathopanishad, Prashnopanishad, Mundakopanishad, Mandukyopanishad, Aitareyopanishad, Taittiriyopanishad, Chandogyopanishad, and Brihadaranyaka 10. So these 10 are your syllabus. If, of course, you can read the others and you will read the others, but these 10 are your syllabus for your for becoming a scholar of Vedanta. So this is the root texts, the foundational texts of Vedanta. Swami Vivekananda said that the Upanishads are the sacred texts of the Hindus, much like the Bible is for the Christians and the Torah for the Jews and the Quran for the Muslims, the Tripitaka for the Buddhists, and the Zend-Avesta for the Zoroastrians. This part is quoted. Next paragraph is often not quoted. So Vivekananda goes on to say, but like the Upanishads, there are no texts in the world. All these others, Bible, Quran, and everything, they are more like our Puranas. The Puranas which we have in Hinduism, the fundamental texts of other religions are equivalent to our Puranas. What is equivalent to the Upanishads? Nothing. There is no text anywhere in any religion, any sacred literature of the world which comes even close to the Upanishads. So these are really extraordinary texts. Now, one thing is, when I mention this, people will say that, but if this is so important, but we don't study Upanishads. I remember some children in Deoghar Vidyapit school once said that Christians study Bible, Muslims study Quran, but if you're saying Upanishads are important to us Hindus, but we don't study Upanishads, only some scholars, some sadhus may study, most people do not study. So I said to them that you study Bhagavad Gita, because it's a Ramakrishna Mission school, all the kids, every day they chanted the Bhagavad Gita. They said, yes, Bhagavad Gita is nothing but Upanishads. Sarva Upanishado Gavo. And the Upanishads are like cows. And Sri Krishna is the milkman. And he milks the cows. And what is the milk of the cows? Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna is like the calf. So the milk of the cows of Upanishads is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the essential teachings of the Upanishads. So when you're reading Bhagavad Gita, you need not feel bad that you have not read Upanishads. If you read Bhagavad Gita, you have read Upanishads. Sometimes Sri Krishna actually quotes literally mantras from the Upanishad. In the Bhagavad Gita, a few shlokas are actually almost direct paraphrases of Upanishadic texts. Anyway, so 10 Upanishads. Among these 10, The shortest is the Mandukya Upanishad. It has only 12 mantras. Why I'm mentioning it is, in one of the Upanishads, not these 10, it's a minor Upanishad, Muktika Upanishad, there's a nice story that Hanuman and Ramchandra, Hanuman asks Ramchandra that, you know, how shall, if I want moksha, how do I get moksha? And Ramchandra replies to Hanuman, Mandukyam ekam evalam mumukshunam vimuktaye. So the Mandukya Upanishad by itself is sufficient to give moksha to those who are seeking moksha. So the one Upanishad is praising, highly recommended reading is Mandukya Upanishad. It's the shortest of the Upanishads, the most powerful of the Upanishads. But why I'm mentioning this is, suppose you don't get moksha by studying the Mandukya Upanishad and trying to understand, realize it, then what happens? Then Ramchandra goes on to give a list of 108 Upanishads, including Mandukya, to Hanuman. So this is the full syllabus, 108. All names are given in that Muktika Upanishad. So it is not just 10 Upanishads. You can go up to 108, and there are more beyond. And there are Upanishads which have been lost. The Vedic texts have been lost over time. Some Upanishads have disappeared. So that is all about what Upanishads are available. Now, what is its connection to Hinduism? So its connection is this. All our systems of Hindu philosophy are based on the Upanishads. How? As I said, the essential teachings of the Upanishads are in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna teaches that to Arjuna. But there is another text, the Brahma Sutras, which is the same Upanishads, but it is basically a logical reflection, a philosophical reflection on the Upanishads. Many questions arise. If you read the Upanishads, they're all different from each other. They all speak in different terminology. They try to give different kinds of theories. So how to reconcile them, harmonize them, understand them? So this attempt was made by Badarayana Vyasa in the Brahma Sutras. These are in sutra form. So sutras are very cryptic, aphoristic Sanskrit phrases. So 555 sutras. And this is part of the sutra age of Sanskrit literature, you know, where systems of philosophy were condensed, systems of thought were condensed into sutra, not just philosophy. You have grammar, the Paninian, the sutras, so of Sanskrit grammar. You have the sutras of every system of orthodox philosophy, including Vedanta. So the Vedanta sutras, they take up many issues which rise when you study the Upanishads and try to answer those questions. Now, sutras are by their very nature very compact. So the meanings of the sutras have to be explained. The meanings are explained in the form of commentaries of Sutra, Brahma Sutra, same thing. So there are 555 of these sutras, and there are commentaries on these sutras, and these commentaries were written by the great acharyas. And based on these commentaries on the Brahma Sutra, the different systems of Hindu philosophy have come up. It's an important point. All this extraordinary variety of Hindu thought and practice, it comes from the various systems, interpretations of the Upanishads, specifically the interpretations of the Brahma Sutra. And these interpretations are in the form of the commentaries written by great acharyas. For example, Adi Shankaracharya, 1300 years ago, he wrote his Brahma Sutra Bhashya, commentaries on the Brahma Sutra, which forms the foundation of the system known as Advaita Vedanta. You, Vedanta Society of New Jersey, you are Advaitins. I am a follower of Advaita Vedanta. So your link to the Upanishad is through the Brahma Sutra commentary of Adi Shankaracharya. So what you follow is based upon the non-dualistic commentary on the Brahma Sutras composed by Adi Shankaracharya about 1300 years ago. He did not, by the way, technical point, he did not start the tradition of non-dualism. He is himself very clear about it. He is only continuing a tradition which existed before him. Clearly, even before he wrote the commentaries. Gaudapada, his teacher's teacher, was teaching the same philosophy. Even before that, there was obviously the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads themselves. So, Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya's commentary on Brahma Sutras, along with his commentaries on the Upanishads, along with his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, is the foundation of the system which we today call Advaita Vedanta, and which we have in common. You and I, we all follow the same thing. But this is not the only system. Ramanujacharya, who lived about 200 years after Adi Shankaracharya, 200-300 years after that, he commented on the Brahma Sutra, same Brahma Sutra. He wrote his Sri Bhashya, and based on that stands the Vishishtadvaita, the Sri Vaishnavas in Tamil Nadu. So the Vishishtadvaita system of Ramanujacharya is based on Ramanujacharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Similarly, Madhvacharya, about 100 years later, he writes his commentary, the Purna Prajna Bhashya, on the Brahma Sutras, and that gives rise to, that's the foundation of the Dvaita Vedanta system, the Madhva Vedanta, Dvaita Vedanta. Vallabhacharya, so his commentary on the Brahma Sutras, that is the foundation of the Shuddhadvaita Vedanta. These systems might sound unfamiliar, but you know these people. So the Pushti Marga among the Gujaratis, you see, they are worshippers of Krishna, but a particular school of Vaishnavism, and that comes from Vallabhacharya. There is Nimbarkacharya, Dvaita Vedanta. The ISKCON, which is so popular here in New York, 1960s onwards, everybody knows Hare Krishna, whether they know the Vedanta Society or not, everybody knows the Hare Krishnas. So where do they come from? They come from another school of Vedanta, which is the school of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the Bengal school of Vaishnavism, which traces its origins back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They also have their own school of Vedanta, which is called Achintya Bheda Bhed. There was a great scholar saint called Baladeva Acharya, who wrote a commentary on the Brahma Sutras, based on which that school of Vedanta is there. So you have all these schools of Vedanta, and which are manifested in different religious groups of Hinduism. For example, in the United States now you'll see magnificent temples of the Swami Narayan sect coming up. So you see in different parts of here in New Jersey also one big one, a huge one is coming up. Who are they? So they belong to a particular school of Vedanta. Till recently they followed Ramanuja's Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, and now they are developing their own school of Vedanta. So all of these are different schools of Vedanta. They are commentaries based on commentaries on the Brahma Sutra and commentaries on the Upanishads. They all trace their origins back to the Upanishads, various definitions of the Upanishads. Okay. So at the core of Hinduism lies this variety of philosophies. At the core of these philosophies lies the Upanishads. Now, what I'm going to say from now on, I'm going to take a quick tour, bird's eye view of the different Upanishads to give you a taste of what's actually there. Literally actually hear the Upanishads themselves and listen to the teachings. But one caution, so because of my predilection for Advaita Vedanta, the way I'm going to Upanishads interpret is based on Advaitic interpretation. The same thing can be interpreted in a devotional way by other theistic schools of Vedanta. Okay. So what do the Upanishads say according to Advaita Vedanta? It's very easy to say. Advaita Vedanta is very easy to simply express. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. There is an ultimate reality called Brahman, which is revealed by the Upanishads. This universe which you see is an appearance of that Brahman. Then what am I? What are you? You are that Brahman. You are Brahman. This is the most startling, stunning revelation in the Upanishads. Who are we? We are not simply bodies of flesh and blood. We are not even sentient beings, limited individuals born to suffer and then die. We are none other than the ultimate reality of the universe. What a stunning claim to make. You are that. And they say that the Upanishads teach this. So the sentences in which the Upanishads teach the oneness, the identity of Jiva and Brahma, those sentences are called Mahavakya. Those Upanishadic sentences which express the identity of you and the ultimate reality, Brahman, those are called Mahavakya. Jiva Brahma Aikya Bodhakam Vakyam. Mahavakya. Example, most famous, everybody has heard of it. Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi. That thou art. There's this gentleman in California, associated with our Vedanta Society of Southern California, who had taken the name Tattvamasi. He liked it so much, he changed his name. So his name became Tattvamasi. So, Tattvamasi. In fact, representative Mahavakyas are taken from the 4 Vedas. 4 Mahavakyas from each of the Vedas. Tattvamasi is the Mahavakya from the Chandogya Upanishad, which belongs to the Sama Veda. Then you have Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. That belongs to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and that's from the Yajur Veda. Then you have Prajnanam Brahma. Consciousness itself is Brahman. And that comes from the Aitareya Upanishad, which belongs to the Rig Veda. And finally, you have I am Atma Brahma. This very self is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. That's from Mandukya Upanishad, comes from Atharva Veda. So these 4 sentences, representative sentences. And what do they mean? They all mean the same thing, that you are Brahman. So it's very easy to express the teachings of the Upanishad. You want to say, what is the takeaway? What do these Upanishads talk about? You are that. That thou art. Now, you are that. That is what? That is difficult to explain, but this is the basic idea of the Upanishads. That thou art. Let's take a quick look at the Upanishads. The Kathopanishad. So many of these Upanishads are in the form of dialogues, of teacher-student dialogue. In the Kathopanishad, you have the young boy Nachiketa, who is a favorite character. And Swami Vivekananda really loved this Upanishad, and he loved the character of Nachiketa, who goes out in search of truth. So the story is he goes to the house of death, Yama's house, and asks questions to Yama. What is the secret of death? You are the Lord of death, so please tell me the secret of death. And then Yama teaches him the basic Vedanta that we know, that there is an ultimate reality, and that reality is consciousness and existence. It is Brahman, and you are that Brahman. So this thing is taught by Yamaraja in that Upanishad. There's the Katha Upanishad. There you find some Upanishadic texts are in the form of beautiful poetry, sublime poetry. Katha Upanishad you find Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam ne me vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agni tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. See, there the sun does not shine, nor the moon, nor the stars, nor the lightning. What to speak of this mere fire? That shining, everything else shines. By its light, everything is lit up. That shining, what is that? Brahman, the ultimate reality, which is consciousness. Consciousness shining, everything else shines. By the light of consciousness, everything is lit up here. What is that consciousness? It's you. You shining, everything else shines. By your light, everything is lit up. Everything means whatever you experience in life. So that's a very beautiful, extraordinarily beautiful poetry. Then you come to, let's say, the Mundaka Upanishad. So here you find the classic discussion between teacher and student. And the classic form of the Upanishadic question. The question of the Upanishad is about the ultimate reality. What is the reality of this universe? What is that by knowing which I can know everything? So you can hear the original language of the Upanishad. It's very, very grand. Shaunako havai mahashalo angirasam vidivadupasana papracha. Shaunaka, who was a very well-to-do householder. See, the student is a householder. And many of the teachers and students of the Upanishads were householders. They were not monks. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and Arjuna, both are householders. It's not that this is just for sannyasis. Most of the original teachers and the students were actually householders. Some were monks. So Shaunaka, so you can also see, this is a very common name, Shaunak. And among you, I'm sure you know some people who are called Shaunak. So Shaunak These are Upanishadic names, 5,000 years old. Even now, they're common names in India. Shaunako Havai Mahashalo, who is a very well-to-do householder, he goes to the teacher Angiras and asks a question. What is that question? Kasminnu bhagavo vigyate sarvamidam vigyatam bhavati iti. Sir, what is that knowing which everything becomes known? How interesting, what a question. What is that knowing which everything becomes known? Now, instead of answering him directly, the teacher says, you are asking about knowledge. Knowledge is of two kinds, the lower and the higher, the relative and the transcendent or supreme knowledge. So he says, Tasmai sahovacha dve vidye veditavye iti hasmayad brahmavido vadanti parachaiva paracha. So the teacher said to him, there are two kinds of knowledge, the lower, apara, and the higher, para. And this is something that the knowers of Brahman have taught to us. So it's by teacher-student parampara, lineage, this knowledge has passed down to us. Immediately the curiosity will be there. Oh, so all knowledge can be divided into lower and higher. And so what is this lower knowledge and what's this higher knowledge? And the teacher tells the student, Tatra para rigveda yajurveda samaveda atharvaveda shiksha kalpa vyakaranam niruktam chando jyotishamiti athaparayata daksharam adhigamyate. So what is the apara vidya, the lower knowledge? Everything that you can think of, the entire syllabus of the university, the entire syllabus you find in the university is apara vidya, including Vedas, including Upanishads. Everything is lower knowledge. How interesting. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, all are lower knowledge. And associated with that grammar and prosody and the details of how to perform the rituals, they're called the 6 Vedangas. All of it is lower knowledge. But then everything you put as lower knowledge, what is remaining for higher knowledge? Higher knowledge is that parayaya tad aksharam adhigamyate. The higher knowledge is that by which you realize the ultimate reality. So then a curiosity is created. See how the teaching, the pedagogy, the teaching strategy, you make it clear first that what you normally understand by knowledge, you're not talking about that. You're talking about something different. Those who have read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, what happens in the very beginning? M, the recorder of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Kathamrita, he goes there to meet Sri Ramakrishna. And then he says, where does he live? In that room. Then he goes outside that room. The maid servant Brinde is standing there. And M, who is a school teacher and a very learned, scholarly person, he asks Brinde, the maid servant, so the Paramahamsa lives here? Yes. So does he read a lot of books? And then Brinde said, oh my goodness, no books? No, not at all. It's all on his lips in Bengali. Boi, na mukhe mukhe. Everything is on his lips. Then M writes that he was surprised. How can one be a great knowledgeable person without reading books? So you see, this whole question goes back thousands of years. The teacher tells the student, there are two kinds of knowledge. One is what you get by reading the books. And that's knowledge. This is Veditavya. It should be learned. It's good. But what we are talking about here, because the question you have asked is not about this kind of knowledge. It is about the higher kind of knowledge. You asked a question, what is that by knowing which everything is known? That question is not about this kind of knowledge. It is about the higher kind of knowledge by which the ultimate reality is known. Parayaya tad aksharam adhigamyate. Then he goes on to say what is the ultimate reality. We all know the answer. It is Brahman, Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, and so on. So on. It goes on. Okay. There is the Kena Upanishad. Okay, I just mentioned Mandukya Upanishad. It's important because it's the shortest Upanishad. I mentioned it's the most powerful one. So what does it contain? Mandukya Upanishad is very interesting. It says by knowing yourself, you will know the highest reality. Because Ayamatma Brahma, this very self is the ultimate reality. You are the ultimate reality, but you do not know yourself. So how is it that I do not know myself? What do I need to know about myself? So he says the self has 4 aspects. Soyam Atma Chatushpat. You, yourself, you have 4 aspects. What are my four aspects? First aspect is your waking self. You, the waking self, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, with your life, your family, your personality, your accomplishments, your biodata, all of it is your waking self. Then there is the dream self. So Vedanta has Vedanta often has a soporific effect. It puts you to sleep sometimes. It's dry philosophy. So the dream self is when you fall asleep, you imagine a world, you dream a world, you forget that you are lying down and on your bed and sleeping, and you are imagining you are inhabiting a world of dreams. That dream experience is your second aspect of yourself. Third aspect of yourself is the deep sleep experience, where you do not experience an external world, you do not dream any dreams, just blank, deep sleep. So three states, these are three aspects of the self: waking, dreaming, deep sleep. And these are well known to us. Vedanta need not teach you this. We all know it. Vedanta is just drawing our attention to it. And then it says that there is a fourth aspect to yourself, which you do not know, and which we are trying to tell you. Vedanta is trying to tell you. The Mandukya Upanishad says that fourth aspect, which it just calls it the fourth, Chaturtham. That is your real nature. It is not the waker, it's not the dreamer, it's not the deep sleeper, it's not something in between, it's not something that can be seen, it cannot be heard or smelt or tasted or touched, it cannot be inferred, it cannot be an object of language, it cannot be an object of thought, you cannot grasp it through motor organs, and you cannot walk to it or catch it with your hand. It is the real nature of the self. That reality is where the universe has disappeared. There's no universe at all. Only that ultimate nature of the self remains. It is free of all suffering. It is the highest bliss. I'm translating from the Mandukya Upanishad, 7th mantra. It is the highest bliss. It is non-dual. There's no second reality apart from it. People think it is the fourth, but it's actually the only reality. And that is yourself, and you have to realize that. Right now, what do you think about yourself? I am the waker, I am Sarvapriyananda. No. The Upanishad contests that. Upanishad says you are not Sarvapriyananda. You are that fourth. Right now you are appearing as Sarvapriyananda, waking state. In a dream you will appear as something else. In your deep sleep you will not appear as anything at all, blankness. These three are appearances, and the reality is the fourth. Nanta pragyam na bahish pragyam na ubhayata pragyam na pragyana ghanam na pragyam na pragyam adrishtam abhyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam abhyapadeshyam ekatma pratyasaram panchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vigneyaha. Extraordinary 7th mantra of the Upanishad. Only 12 mantras, and its climax is the 7th mantra, where it talks about the fourth. Shankaracharya's teacher's teacher, Gaudapada Acharya, he wrote extensive commentaries on the Mandukya Upanishad, just 12 mantras, but he expanded it into 4 chapters, full of these verses called Karika. So nowadays, if you read Mandukya Upanishad, you read it with the Karikas written by Gaudapada. So it's called Mandukya Karika. So the fourth, Gaudapada used the term Turiya. We talk Swami Turiyananda, Turiya. Turiya means Atman or Brahman. But the literal meaning of Turiyam is 4, number 4. So this is the teaching of the Mandukya Upanishad. Another peculiarity, special teaching of the Mandukya Upanishad is it uses Om. The actual deep meaning, the innermost meaning of Om is given in the Mandukya Upanishad. What does Om mean? It's the most sacred syllable in, most sacred sound in all of Hinduism. Also in Buddhism and Sikhism. In Sikhism, what's the highest reality? Ek Omkar. So in Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism also, Om is the highest, most sacred mantra. What is the meaning of Om? Mandukya Upanishad says, Om can be split, analyzed into 3 sounds, 3 letters. A, U, Ma. A stands for waker. You the waker and your waking world. U stands for you the dreamer and your dream world. The Ma stands for you the deep sleeper and your deep sleep potential world. No world is there. There the subject object are merged. So that is the ma. And the silence after ma, the silence after chanting om, om. The silence after that stands for the fourth, the turiya. Now the idea is when you chant om, correlated in your mind. You bring vividly to your mind the experiences of your waking, and you go through om, the experiences of your dream, the blankness of deep sleep, and notice underlying all of that is one free consciousness in which all these three, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, coming, playing, and disappearing. That consciousness is free of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That consciousness you are. That is Atma, Sa Atma. And that has to be realized. So Om is a big help, aid, support in understanding Atma. Okay. That's the Mandukya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad is very famous. That's where you find Tat Tvamasi. The student is the son, and teacher is the father. And the son has come back from school. And the father is saying, did they teach you in school that by knowing which everything is known? See, the same question which Shaunaka had asked the teacher in Mundaka Upanishad. In Chandogya Upanishad, father asked the son, did they teach you in the school that vidya, that knowledge, by knowing which everything is known? Then a doubt will arise. How can, by knowing one thing, everything will be known? If you know biology, you know only life. If you know physics, you know only matter. How is that by one knowledge, everything can be known? And then he gives an example. If you know the cause, you will know the effect. So if you know clay, then you know all pots made of clay. Know means in what sense? Whatever pot you make out of the clay, you will know one thing, that the reality of these pots is clay. Even without seeing the pot, you can say it will be clay. Whatever ornaments are made out of gold, you don't know the type of ornaments, but you know one thing, the reality of those ornaments is gold. Similarly, there is one reality which is appearing as this universe at its source. Sadeva Saumya Idamagrasit. The father tells the son, my dear son, at the beginning, before this universe was created, there was one existence. That existence alone is appearing as this universe. And so you can imagine your teenage son might be like, so? So then the father says, Tattvamasi, that existence you are. Now even the most arrogant teenager cannot say so, because you're talking about him. You are that reality. You are not who you think you are. Tattvamasi. And 9 times the father explains to the son in using different examples. So that's the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, you find the famous dialogue between husband and wife, Yajnavalkya, Maitri. There you find the wife is the questioner, husband is the teacher, and then you find Gargi, the famous woman saint, a great woman philosopher. So Yajnavalkya has debates with other great philosophers, and the greatest of those philosophers who questions Yajnavalkya, the greatest of them is a woman, is Gargi. So that's where you come across the name Gargi. Again, nowadays also you still use the names Gargi, Maitri are still very much in use. These are all 4,000-5,000 year old names. So that's a whirlwind tour of the Upanishads. Just one comment. It spread in the 19th, before that, one Frenchman, Anquetil Duperron, he was instrumental in bringing the Upanishads to the West. So our Swami Tathagatanandaji, who was here in the Vedanta Society of New York, he wrote a very nice book, Journey of the Upanishads to the West. So how Upanishads came to the West. This Anquetil Duperron, a Frenchman, he was the one who took the Upanishads. And those Upanishads are very interesting history. Dara Shukro, elder brother of Aurangzeb, he was very interested in Hinduism. So he got the Upanishads translated by Pandits in Benares. And that collection of Upanishads, which was called Upanikhat, and that Persian, it was in Persian, Anquetil Duperron got a copy of that. And he translated it in Latin and published it as Upnikhat, Oupnekkhat, Upnikhat. How the Sha became a Kha, that's also an interesting story. Anyway, so that Upanishad in Latin translation, from Persian translation, from Sanskrit. So see, it fell into the hands of Schopenhauer, one of the greatest German philosophers, Arthur Schopenhauer. And Schopenhauer says that there is, I consider no study in the world to be as beneficial as the study of this Upanishad, except perhaps the original Upanishads. So this is the most beneficial study in the world is this Upanishads. He says, it is the solace of my life, it will be the solace of my death. Till the end of his life, daily he would study Upanishads before going to sleep. His favorite little dog, he named it Atma. So, and then it traveled across the West. In America, Emerson and Thoreau, Walt Whitman, they were the initial fans of the Upanishad, the American transcendentalists. After that, Swami Vivekananda came, of course, 1893, and Swamiji said that in the West, I have taught only the Upanishads. There is enough there for the liberation of humanity. So that is the tradition from Vivekananda down to our Vedanta Society, New Jersey, New York, and so on. And so many teachers these days, we're still teaching those same Upanishads. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think time is up. Let me do a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Very good.
If anybody has any questions, you can come up with that.
No
Maharaj,
questions.
yeah, I have a question. Actually, what do you recommend for a book, especially for our kids born and brought up here? They will be interested.
I recommend for Upanishads, for the study of the Upanishads.
Yes.
Yeah. There are so many books nowadays. A good introduction is always, first of all, if you read the talks of Swami Vivekananda in English, then go to the Bhagavad Gita, and then you go to the Upanishads. A very good English presentation, but detailed English presentation of the Upanishads is Swami Nikhilanandaji's Upanishads. There are 4 volumes. So what he has done is, he has given a running English translation. He has left the Sanskrit out of it altogether. Given a running English translation of the Upanishads, major Upanishads, and it's in 4 volumes. He has used Adi Shankaracharya's commentary, just taking the gist of it. He has not given a line-by-line translation of the commentary. So it's a very readable thing, especially if you read the introduction. In each of the volumes, there's an introduction to the Upanishads. So if you read the introductions available in the volumes, you will get a very wonderful survey, but a pretty serious survey, not oversimplified, of the entire Upanishadic literature and the central teachings or doctrines. Swami Nikhilananda, Upanishads, 4 volumes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then if you want detailed, like literal translations of the Upanishads and line-by-line translation of Shankaracharya's commentary, then I will recommend Swami Gambhiranandaji's 8 Upanishads.
Okay. That's in Bengali, right?
No, that's in English.
Oh, English?
Bengali, there is Upanishad that is different. Gambhiranandaji's Upanishads are there in Bengali. This has 8 Upanishads are in English, 2 volumes.
Okay.
There you get literal line-by-line translations of the Upanishads. Yeah.
Thank you.
Swamiji, I am new in this Zoom. My name is Chandrapal. I have a question. The Chatushutti, the first Shutti is Athata Brahma Yagnasha. What is the meaning of Athata? Means I have to learn something before I come to this Vedanta darshan. What are those before?
All right. So it's a difficult question you've asked. Brahma Sutras are, as I mentioned, they are the philosophical basis of the Vedanta system. They are also based on the Upanishads. They are a rethinking of the Upanishads, trying to harmonize the teachings of the Upanishads and answer questions which arise. So there are 555 sutras. In the Brahma Sutras, there are 555 sutras. The first sutra, The first 4 sutras are called Chatussutri, 4 sutras. Why are they important? Because if you don't want to study 555, if you study the first 4, that's also enough. So sometimes sannyashis, just Shivaratri is passed just now. So in traditionally, those who take sannyasa in India, they take sannyasa on Shivaratri. In our order, we take it 3 days later on Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, that is tomorrow. So the new monks will get their, they will be initiated into monastic life tomorrow. Now, one of the rules is, before you take sannyasa, you must read the commentaries of Shankaracharya. They may not have time to read full Brahma Sutra and all. So 4 sutras, at least the first 4 sutras, not just the sutras. Sutras are very short, with the commentary of Shankaracharya. So what are the 4 sutras? Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Janmadyasya Yataha, Shastra Yonitvat, Tattu Samanvayat. These are the first 4 sutras, and that's it, with the commentary. But commentaries are extensive and they're difficult. Now, the question that she asked was, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That's the first sutra. What does it mean? Hence, Atha means hence, Ataha, therefore, Brahma, Brahman, Jigyasa, inquiry. Hence, therefore, inquiry into Brahman. Hence means whence. What does it mean? So when you try to interpret, a lot of issues will come up. So hence means what? That was the question she asked. Atha means now, therefore, hence. But now means when, after what? So there was a big issue. So does Atha mean that after completing karma kanda of Vedas, then only you can come to Upanishads? Then that is very troublesome. Why it is troublesome? Because karma kanda of Vedas means, the rituals means you have to go through householder life. You cannot become a monk directly. And if you go through householder life, you have to marry, you have to have children, you'll have to have a job and a career and family and all of that. Not much time left over for Vedanta. Can you come directly to Vedanta? So that is the question. So Shankaracharya's conclusion was, Atha means sadhana chatushtaya sampanna pramata adhikari. If you have the 4-fold qualifications for Vedanta, Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhamadi, Shatsampanti, Mumukshutvam, the discernment between the eternal and non-eternal, which we all have. We feel that there is an ultimate reality which we want. We want God realization. Dispassion for the world. To some extent we have. If we were totally crazy about earning money and making your way in Wall Street, you would not be spending time in the evening and listening to a talk on Vedanta. So you have Vairagya. You already have some dispassion for the world. Then you have to have the 6-fold disciplines, control of body and mind, and an intense desire to be free of samsara, moksha ichha, mumukshutvam. If you have these, then you are qualified for Vedanta. You are qualified for inquiry into Vedanta, Brahma Jigyasa. So that is the meaning of the first sutra.
Thank you, Swami.
All right then. Thank you so much for having me.
Maharaj?
Maharaj, I have one more question from YouTube.
Yes.
Hello?
What is the question from YouTube?
Just a moment.
Maharaj, I have one question. Oh, sorry. It's okay. Somebody else.
Yeah, okay. Chobidi, you can go ahead with your question.
No, my question is, it's not a question, it's an Bangla bole abedon. We try to read this Upanishad and Ved, but we don't understand single word. So can we get a favor from you? Let's say once a month you can do class with us. That's my question.
Right. But I am teaching, and those are available freely online. If you start with what is right now, I'm teaching Vedanta Shar. It is a preparation for study of Upanishads. So I will teach all the Upanishads by the grace of God. If it is possible, we will see. So right now what we are doing is we are studying a text called Vedanta Sar. Vedanta Sar gives...
I have that book.
Yes, so please follow the classes. Those classes are available online.
Where I can get the link?
You search for it, Vedanta Sar, you will get it. Yeah. I can send it to Paramitadi, the link.
Okay.
I can give you the link right now also. You can, Paramitadi or Shomin can give it to
Yeah, Maharaj.
Chavidi.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Can I ask? Thank you, Maharaj.
Swamiji, I just want, this is Romi Malik. I've been following your Mundaka Upanishad and all the Upanishad that you're doing, and I can't wait to meet you in person, and just wanted to say my namaskar to you.
Namaskar, namaste. Do you stay in New Jersey?
Yes.
All right. So
Yeah.
when the pandemic is over and we reopen this Vedanta Society, you're all most welcome to drop in. And I also visit Vedanta Society of New Jersey once in a while.
Right.
So when things are a little better, like we can obviously we can have in-person classes.
Maharaj, you have one invitation from our house. Remember that? Long time.
Yes, certainly. So here is link. Can you see the link? I think Showman can.
Yes, I got
I
it.
Yes,
posted it
Maharaj.
on the chat.
Yeah, got it.
This is the link to the Vedanta Shar classes that is ongoing, and it's uploaded every week. It is uploaded. You have the Vedanta Shar book. You can follow along with it, and that will give you a foundation for studying Upanishads after this. After this, we will take up the Upanishads one by one. Hopefully, let us see.
Yeah. So there is one question from YouTube. Mousumi Sarkar. She is asking, একজন সাধকের জন্য প্রাথমিক ধাপগুলি কি কি?
Yes. So the preliminary steps are Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata. So here are the steps. 3 levels. First level is Karma Yoga. That is to perform all our work, whether it is religious work like puja and chanting, or it is secular work, like your work in the house, in the office, in the school, in the community, whatever work we do throughout the, whether it's religious or secular, all of that has to be done as a worship of God, not for its material benefits. So with detachment, not that I will not take the results. The results, if they come, I will have to take. If you do a job, you will get the salary. But now you're not doing it for the salary. You're doing it because it is your way of worshiping God. So conversion of work into worship mentally, that is first step. It gives purity of mind. Purity of mind. Then the second thing is meditation. Please take Diksha, Mantra Diksha, and can you hear me or is it getting cut off?
No, we can hear you, Maharaj.
Yes. So please take Mantra Diksha. Guru will give you Ishta Devata mantra. Morning and evening, practice a lot of japa as much as you can. That will give concentration of mind. Karma Yoga, purity of mind, Chitta Shuddhi. Japa and Dhyana will give concentration of mind, Ekagrata. And Bhakti, that gives you focus, it gives you steadiness, connection with God and the grace of God. Most important, Ishvara Kripa. Then you come to Shravana Manana Nididhyasana of Upanishads. So the Vedanta texts, not only Upanishads, all the Vedanta texts which are taught, they are all basically the teachings of the Upanishads. All the texts written by Shankaracharya and all the later masters, they don't teach anything other than what is taught in the Upanishads. Make it easier. So Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Shravana means systematically studying. Manana means thinking about it, reasoning about it, and ultimately meditation upon it. That will give rise to Brahma Gyan. So this is not sequence in time. All of them have to be done together. Not that I will do Karma Yoga for 20 years, then Bhakti Yoga for 10 years, then meditation for 5 years. All together, one must continue. Yes. All right, we'll stop here. I have to run for dinner.
Maharaj, then we'll do Ramakrishna Sharanam.
Yes.
Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Sharane Jai Jai Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Ramakrishna Sharanam, Sharane Prabhu Kripahi Kevalam, Kripahi Kevalam, Kripahi Kevalam Sharanye Prabhu Kripahi Kevalam, Kripahi Kevalam, Kripahi Kevalam Sharanye Jai जय जय राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम शरण्ये जय जय राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम शरण्ये प्रभु शरणागत हम शरणागत हम शरणागत हम शरण्ये प्रभु शरणागत हम शरणागत हम शरणागत हम शरण्ये जय जय राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम शरण्ये नमो श्री गुरवे नमो श्री गुरवे नमो श्री गुरवे नमो 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 श्री गुरवे नमो श्री गुरवे नमो श्री गुरवे नमो नमो जय जय राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम शरण्ये राम कृष्ण जय जय 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 राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम शरण्ये जय जय राम कृष्ण शरणम राम कृष्ण शरणम शरण्ये
Thank you, Maharaj. Pranam.
Pranam Maharaj. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
joining
everybody.
us.
Stay
Pranam
well,
Maharaj.
stay safe.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Take care until we
And
meet
thank
again.
you all for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Swami.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Paramita.
you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I think he left.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, it is wonderful.
Thank you.
It's very good.
Thank you everyone. I have to leave also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ভালো লাগলো
Thank you.
Sheila, if you're there, Sheila sent from my in a frame. Sheila's there. Sorry, I couldn't see your question.
Like,
Sheila, তোর কোয়েশ্চেনটা দিতে পারলাম না। উনি সরি।
Prabhidi, thank you for proposing that what we have now. I never knew that.
What?
What is
I
that?
said ছবিদি প্রপোজ করলেন না ওই লিংকটা পাঠিয়ে দিলেন মহারাজ।
ও আমি ছবি তোকে পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছি। আমি সবাইকে পাঠিয়ে
হ্যাঁ
দেব।
হ্যাঁ আমি পেয়েছি। আমি বলছি উনি প্রপোজ করলেন তাই বলছি।
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা।
থ্যাংক ইউ দিচ্ছি।
ভালো আছিস? Bye. Thank you, Jayati, for coming. My friends are joined from
লিংকটা পাঠিয়ে দিস একটু
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা sure.
সবাইকে ভালোবাসা জানাচ্ছি
বাই বাই
থ্যাংক ইউ পারমিতা থ্যাংক ইউ
Most welcome.
খুব এনজয় করলাম
আরো আমাকেও লিংকটা পাঠিয়ে দিস আমি চন্দ্রা বলছি
ও আচ্ছা সবাইকে পাঠিয়ে দেবো যারা যারা এসছো তারা সবাইকে পাঠিয়ে দেবো
পাঠিয়ে দিস পারু পাঠিয়ে দিস
পরে পরে দাঁত ব্যথা হয়ে যায় কিচ্ছু বুঝতে পারি না বাপু তাই জন্য মহারাজ
সেই বেশি কঠিন হলে তো আবার বুঝতেও পারবো না সেটাও তো মুশকিল
আমার সংস্কৃত পড়তে জানি না আর বাংলা ইংরেজি পড়তে পড়তে দাঁত ব্যথা লাগে
একটু উনি যে রেফার নিখিলানন্দর বইটা দেখবেন।
বইগুলো আছে আমার কাছে, দুটোই আছে। ওই যে গম্ভীরানন্দের ইংলিশ উপনিষদ, এইটা ওটাও আমার কাছে আছে, ওটাও আছে, কিন্তু চেষ্টা করেছি বাবা, আমার সাধ্য হয় না পড়া।
এই সৌমেন রেকর্ডিংটা বন্ধ করে দে।
হ্যাঁ বন্ধ। পারমিতা তুই শুনতে পাচ্ছিস?
হ্যাঁ শুনতে পাচ্ছি, সরি তো মানে তোর ইয়েটা যেতে পারলাম না।
সরির জন্য না, কি অসম্ভব সুন্দর। আমি বোধহয় একমাত্র যে ভোর হচ্ছে আমার দেশে এখন।
হ্যাঁ ভোরবেলা উঠে এসেছিস, বাপ রে বাপ।
এখন ভোর না, কিন্তু এত সুন্দর করে দিনটা শুরু হচ্ছে আমার, যে কি ভালো লাগলো। তুই আমার হয়ে আমার প্রণামটা একটু জানাবি। যে এত, কিন্তু আমার একটাই প্রশ্ন ছিল যে আমরা উপনিষদ আর এই সব শাস্ত্রীয় জিনিস অনেক দূরে সরিয়ে রেখেছি, আমাদের জীবনে এটা আরো বেশি করে কিভাবে আমরা এটাকে ইনভাইট করতে পারি। মানে এটা তো আমাদেরই জন্য, কিন্তু আমরা এটাকে একটা সরিয়ে রাখা একটা কোর্স হিসেবে না করে, যার জন্য রবীন্দ্রসঙ্গীত এখন এত এনরিচ, কারণ ইট ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি ডিস্টিলড উপনিষদ। উনি একটা করে বলছিলেন না, এক একটা বেদে এইটাই হচ্ছে মুখ্য বাক্য। আমি সঙ্গে সঙ্গে একটা করে গান লিখে যাচ্ছিলাম। যদি কখনো তোরা পারিস, ইট উড বি গ্রেট, কারণ ভাষা, বাংলা ভাষা তো আমাদের অনেক সহজে আসবে। উনি যদি সংস্কৃতটা পড়লেন বলেই তো আমি আজকে বুঝতে পারলাম যে কোন উপনিষদে কোন বেদে কি। কিন্তু এটা আমার দুঃখের ব্যাপার, যেটা এত দূরে সরানো একটা জিনিস কিন্তু নয়। It should be more a part of our daily living and life and thinking also. Otherwise, really, it's something like astrophysics, which I don't think. So, I think for Bengalis, যিনি গানটা গাইলেন প্রথমে, আনন্দধারা বহিছে ভুবনে, আমি কোনজন গান গাইছে দেখতে দেখতে গানটা পুড়ে গেল। কিন্তু এই রবীন্দ্রনাথের এত সুন্দর সুন্দর গান, আমি যখন উনি বললেন না যে তত্ত্বমসি, আর আমারই মধ্যে ব্রাহ্মণ, সেই রবীন্দ্রনাথের গান আছে, আমার মধ্যে তোমার প্রকাশ, তাই এত মধুর, সীমার মাঝে অসীম তুমি। অ্যাকচুয়ালি রবীন্দ্রনাথের ছোট বয়স থেকে তার বাবা কানে এত উপনিষদ ঢেলেছিলেন, ফর হিম ইট জাস্ট বিকাম আ ম্যাটার অফ ইউজিং হিজ ক্রিয়েটিভ পোয়েটিক এবিলিটিস টু কনভার্ট দিস ভেরি ডেন্স, আদারওয়াইজ ডেন্স, ফর কমন পিপল লাইক আস। আমরা তো কখনো অত সময় পাবো না যে বসে বসে we will be reading the actual text. It's only for people like সর্বপ্রিয়ানন্দজিদের মতন মানুষরাই আমাদের। আমার কাছে এটা সত্যি কথা যেন মনে হয় যে আমরা যদি শুরুও করি রবীন্দ্রনাথের দিয়ে, and I was thinking actually